get more into what the reaction might be. What are the opportunities and what are the potential ramifications? The UK is contemplating a robust response, in the Prime Minister's words. The Russian activist Alexei Navalny says if Russia is proved culpable, then sanctions should be aimed at 3 surnames: Abramovich, Usmanov and Shuvalov. Now, Abramovich, of course, Roman Abramovich owns Chelsea Football Club. Alicia Usmanov is a stakeholder in Arsenal Football Club. And Igor Shuvalov owns property in London. Joining me now, the former British ambassador to Russia, Sir Tony Brenton. OK, Sir Tony, first of all, so we know where you stand on this, do you believe that Russia, either officially or through rogue activity, was behind this?
Yes, I do. I mean, the Prime Minister would not have said what she said without being pretty sure. And I think the distinction between Russia acting officially and some sort of rogue element is not really a distinction. Russia uses an awful lot of cat's paws as it operates around the world. And in practice, the people who did it were the Russian state, one way or another.
Right. What are the options? Come on, then. What are the options? There are already sanctions in some cases against Russia as a result of Crimea and Ukraine. So what other options, hard choices, does the Prime Minister have at her disposal?
Well, I mean, the obvious first step, which is a road you in the United States have already been down, is that we throw out a lot of Russian diplomats. We tighten up contacts with Russian intelligence agencies. We make life a lot more difficult for the bits of Russia which have been involved with this. More on your economic terrain, of course, a lot of Russians, a number of names have already been identified, have significant property in the United Kingdom, which it is very difficult to explain on the basis of their salaries. We have instruments in hand, and we're working on more, which will enable us to clamp down on those and confiscate their property. But can I add one particular point for your United States audience? Our United Kingdom response will be, no doubt, robust, but it will be immensely amplified if we can get support from our Western allies, most notably the United States. If you and other NATO members take similar action to what we are now contemplating, that will make the impact on Russia that much greater and make the likelihood of what has just happened in Salisbury that much less on the streets of your cities.
Right, but that, of course, takes you straight into the whole area of the unwillingness, seemingly, of Donald Trump to want to openly criticize Russia, certainly not Putin. I mean, you know, obviously as a result of the election and the meddling in the election. But even today, Sarah Sanders at the White House briefing would not go along with what the Prime Minister said about Russia being the culprit.
Well, I understand that you have complexities with regard to your Russia policy at the moment. All I can say is that something awful has happened here in the UK, your closest ally. We are going to do what we can to persuade the Russians, compel the Russians not to do it again. We look to you to find a way through your difficulties to help us.
So Tony, the final point, though, is I know you diplomats love to talk about a proportionate response to these things. But if you bear in mind what was done here, I mean, somebody attempted murder and the potential for much worse in an English town on a large scale, a proportionate response means a dramatic response.
Yes, and I'm sure the response will be. I mean, dramatic's not a word that we understated English use, but will be robust. But we are also conscious that at the end of the day, Russia remains a major power with whom we're all going to have to do business. So we need to demonstrate to the Russians that the benefits of doing this sort of thing are not worth the costs we can impose, but at the same time, find avenues for cooperation with them where those also exist.
So, Tony, thank you for joining us. We'll wait and see what the diplomatic robust response looks like.